Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I am doing Comic Uno episode 261, and this is a show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. So we go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week and everything in between. So let's get started. And number 17, so kind of a, I guess, lighter week. I haven't gotten to the 20 mark in a while, and then next week is like 14 books as well. I guess I dropped some books, and hopefully I get some new books on my pull soon. But yes, number 17 is Infinity Wars issue 4. Just not really loving the event. Usually not a huge fan of Marvel events, and kind of gave this series a try on whim. I liked the beginning a bit, but now it's just getting to that lull of a Marvel event. I'm like, alright, so what's the point of this book? And, you know, it felt very crowded to me, and if you like the mismatched characters and kind of how that happens, you'll enjoy this, but just not feeling this event overall. Also, don't really love the coloring for this book. I think the actual pencils are good, but the darkness of the coloring makes it feel bogged down, and again, the script already feels bogged down for me as well. So, giving Infinity Wars issue 4 2 stars, and that is number 17. Moving on to number 16, a book I was actually really looking forward to, and that is What If Peter Parker Became the Punisher, issue 1. I loved What If Flash Thompson Became Spider-Man, but did not care about this one. I'm also not a huge Punisher fan, so that could be a reason why, but I didn't feel like I got the main reason of why this version of Peter wanted to kill, other than he just took that route instead of the route that he usually takes. So it's pretty much just a retelling of Spider-Man if he was more violent. I just couldn't get into this one, compare it again to Flash Thompson, and also the artwork, I guess felt gritty, but the actual pencils felt very soft to me, and I thought it'd be a little bit more intense, the artwork, since it is Punisher, and feel a bit more gruesome. I didn't feel the gruesomeness in the pencils. So overall, I'm going to give this one 2 stars. Just wasn't feeling that book. So that was number 16. Moving on to number 15, which is Superman, issue 4. Yes, I got, I think, mostly, or maybe all foil covers this week for DC. Out of the Superman books, this is my least favorite. I actually like Action Comics more, which is weird because before Bendis took over, I liked Superman more because it was more character-driven, and they kind of switch. I feel like Action Comics is more character-driven and Superman is more action-driven. But with this one, it's the Rogal Zol, whatever his name is. That is not his name. Rogal? That is not his name. Starts with an R. That guy. Don't remember his name. Always forget it. But I just saw Mike's, you know, Spider Slayer's pull comic book haul video, and he forgets the name too, so I'm not alone. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of this character, and it just feels so slow. I'm like, I get it. Earth is in the Phantom Zone. Cool. And again, it's just more action heavy. I felt like the John transitions could have been better, especially because there was no marker that says this is a flashback. Even though we know it's a flashback, I think the transitions could have been better for that. So giving this 2.5 stars. Artwork is gorgeous for this book, but just not caring about the current story right now. Here's some of the artwork for the series. I was flipping to the, oh, this is another good one. There's some of the art. When I opened it up, I had an advertisement, so couldn't show that one. But yeah, giving this 2.5 stars, and that is number 15. Moving on to number 14, which is Detective Comics, issue 990. We are 10 issues away from issue 1000, and it does not feel that way because everything feels like a filler. This is just a filler Two-Face story, and you know, the Fireflies are gone. They're not in this issue. I just not seeing any forward progression into issue 1000. Not really feeling like this is a must-read at all. But I do like the artwork here, just to show you that. I like the way the shadowing is here, and it feels like classic Batman. That's one of definitely the better things of Detective Comics right now, but just not feeling the story, especially for $3.99. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars. I believe that was number 14. Yes, so number 13, another series I'm not really feeling, and that's Supergirl, issue 23. Picking it up at least until the end of this arc to kind of see what direction this series goes in, because I love Supergirl, but I've not liked Supergirl, her direction in a really long time. Just haven't felt like it's been Supergirl. I feel like this is a better direction for her, because at least there is a story to tell, but I just don't care. I'd rather have Supergirl on Earth. I don't love her space adventures, and when they lean towards that, and then the whole thing with, again, that villain from Superman, I don't really care about him, so this whole story is motivated by that, and what happened to Krypton, and then her interacting with the Green Lanterns is cool, but not cool, because, you know, this version of Supergirl does not have a relationship, really, with anybody besides Superman, so it's really hard for her, and for the reader to feel, okay, yeah, she does know the Green Lanterns, and she should know the Green Lanterns, and they should be upset with her, but they don't know each other, so it's kind of weird to see that relationship here. Artwork is okay. I always feel like Supergirl's neck is very weird. I don't know why. It's just the way it's drawn. But yeah, artwork is probably the best part of the series. But I will continue to pick it up at least until the arc ends, like I said. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12, another book that I didn't love, even though I was really excited for it, and that is Spider-Geddon, issue 1. Love this cover, though. That is my cover of the week, but just do not need this story, and I'm a huge Mayday fan, so that's why I'm picking it up and picking up all the tie-ins, and obviously a huge Spider-Man fan, but did we need a Spider-Verse sequel? Right now, no. I'm not a big Superior Octopus fan, and I didn't read the one-shot or any of that, and not getting his ongoing. So his motives here, I could care less about. And then bringing the Inheritors back, I'm just like, why? Do something else with the group of Spider people. I'm just not feeling the direction right now. And I think if you're not a hardcore Spider-Man fan, you probably don't need to pick this up from the first issue. But if you are, obviously you're just picking it up for the funness of the Spider characters. But even their interactions here are just kind of dull. There's no real true interaction that stands true or stands out in this book, and that's something you want with Spider-Verse, but I think it's because there's such a clutter of characters, it's hard, and that's the same thing from the original Spider-Verse event too. I love the idea of the Inheritors because it was original, but the interactions weren't as strong, and it was the miniseries that kind of picked up those interactions a bit better. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars. I was a bit disappointed with that. So moving on to number 11. Finally getting away from the 2.5 stars and getting to some better books, and that is Birthright, issue 32. Middle ground book always for me. I didn't love the last issue because it wasn't about the family, and it kind of gave us this side story, and it just returned from a long hiatus, but now we actually do get to see the family again, and I'm enjoying their interaction. I do feel like the artwork's a bit blurry at times, so that kind of takes me out of it, and also the story is really slow paced, so that's something that always makes Birthright kind of land in the middle for me, or even towards the bottom, but I am always entertained by the family dynamic, and I feel like that really shined in this issue as well. So I'm going to give this one 3 stars. Alright, moving on to number 10, which is The Flash, issue 56. This would have been a lot higher if it wasn't for the artwork. I felt like the art was super messy, and there's so many advertisements in this book. Okay, really did not like it. Just very messy. Couldn't even tell which characters were which at times. Like, the detective kind of looked like a version of Iris with black hair. Just did not like the style at all. And that's kind of been a detriment to this series. The story's been so good since post-Flash War, but then the artwork is so inconsistent throughout this series. But yeah, giving this 3 stars because I really like the Heatwave story and how they actually gave more story to this Detective Burns. Of course, her last name is Burns, and how she's kind of connected to Heatwave and how her parents were villains. I thought that was cool to kind of give a background to these newer characters in the series. And then I'm always enjoying Iris in this book and kind of her own superhero mission that she has, especially as Barry is out of order here, as he's kind of stuck in his head with everything going on with Heatwave. And I just love the extra power boost that Williamson has been giving these rogue characters, kind of giving them a different form, you know. I like that. You know, we've seen the rogues a billion times, so it's cool that we, again, extra power up. That's the best way I could put it. Extra power up to these characters. So I'm going to give this 3 stars. Story's really good. Just that artwork. It's bringing it down a little bit for me, but this has been the best Flash series I've read in a while, so. Alright, moving on to number 9, which is Miss Marvel, issue 35. Just did not really like this arc. I felt like it was way too long for what it was, but I love Bruno and Kamala, and I like that they're kind of admitting to their feelings. I love the Bruno confession scene here, but then it kind of goes overboard with the time. We're stealing mass from time. It gets a little confusing as the series goes on, or the issue goes on, but I guess I like the way it wrapped up, but kind of a forgettable arc for me, and I'm more interested to see how they deal with the things we learned here in future issues. And I want to see more of Kamala's other supporting cast members. It's been way too long since we've seen them, so hopefully in the next arc we get to see that. Especially since they just learned Kamala was Miss Marvel, or Miss Marvel just learned that they knew that Kamala was Miss Marvel. But the artwork, as always, Nico Leon has been a really great staple here. I'm glad that they've been continuing to be consistent, and Ian Herring's colors always makes it consistent, even with the different artists change throughout the years. And I just like this. It's kind of cartoony and fun, and I feel like this has been the best fit for Miss Marvel artwork-wise. So Miss Marvel issue 35 gets 3 stars. Again, hopefully it gets back to top 5 with the next story arc. Alright, moving on to number 8, which is Tangled, the series, issue 1. The best Disney IDW series so far. And that's because Tangled, as a TV show, honestly has been pretty good. I haven't seen every episode, but I saw the movie and first couple of episodes. And it's very, very character-driven, and not all Disney cartoons, or cartoons in general on Disney Channel, are like that. They're less serialized. So it's nice that the series honestly is about developing Rapunzel and her supporting cast, and we really get to see that here too, where it's a very simple story of Rapunzel wanting to have like the best day ever with this festival, but each time she kind of ruins it for her friends, Eugene, or her boyfriend Eugene, and Cassandra, her other friend. So she kind of learns, alright, you can't plan everything out. But what I really liked was the individual arcs for Cassandra and Eugene, kind of feeling like characters without just feeling like supporting characters. You really get to see their distinct voices here, which I can't say the same for with Frozen and Incredibles. So I think this is probably the strongest of the Disney titles so far, and I hope it continues to be that. Also love the artwork, because I didn't love the art for the television show, but I think this kind of meshes that style, but also giving the style what we had in the movie, which obviously they couldn't do with the show because is bigger budgets. So I really like the art style here, even the way they do the paneling with her hair at times. It was very creative, and I think it will definitely read well for kids as well. It's very bright and has a lot of expressions. So giving that 3.5 stars, and definitely will be picking up more Tangled. I was pleasantly surprised with that one, and that is my number 8 pick. Number 7, a little lower than I expected, but still enjoyed it, and that's Devil Within, issue 1. This is about two almost married couple, so I guess they're engaged, and they move into this new house, and it's haunted, it looks like. So the main girl, she keeps seeing like these kind of visions of like a devil-like creature, and her fiance is like, oh, you know, don't worry about it. It's just in your head. And supposedly there's this girl that has a restraining order for our main character, so it seems like she has somewhat of a past in how this all connected. And by the end, the fiance kind of learns quickly that her girlfriend was not lying, because she turns into like this demon monster. I will say it's a bit of a slow burn in the beginning, but I love how haunting it is, especially the way they use shadows. Really like how the eyes pop, and there's a moment where the fiance just kind of smiles and it's all shadows. You don't know who's the bad guy here, and that's pretty cool. So I really like the artwork and just the style, and I think it has a lot of potential to be a fun series. I'm guessing it's a mini-series. Usually Black Mask does mini-series, so... But I will also say when I was first reading it, I felt like it was more of a one-shot. But then once you get to the end, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I definitely want to see what happens next. So hopefully the pacing is good throughout the rest of the series. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. And that is number 7, I believe. I'm going to get a sip of water. Yes, that was number 7. And we're moving on to number 6. Alright, so number 6 is X-23, issue 5. I think if you're a Cuckoos fan, you're going to enjoy this even more. I'm not a hardcore Cuckoos fan. I get them confused a lot, and it got very confusing as Laura and one of the other Cuckoos are in her head, and they're both talking at the same time. That was fun to read. But what I really like about it is Gabby versus Laura. And Laura realizing how important Gabby is to her, and they kind of celebrate their birthday in the end, and celebrate the death of one of the Cuckoos. So I like the ending more than the actual full story, but I love the artwork here. I think Cable does a really good job. And I would say even better job at expressions here, and a really good job with action. Especially look at this page. That was awesome. Some really unique paneling throughout the series. So I enjoyed the issue. I am also excited to see the next arc though. So giving this 3.5 stars overall. Alright, moving on to number 5, which is The Immortal Hulk, issue 7. If you like classic Hulk, I think you'll really enjoy this, because it's just classic monster Hulk going up against the Avengers and the world being scared of him. And the moment I liked and disliked about this issue was Jen versus Bruce, because we get to see why, or what comes out when Jen becomes She-Hulk, and I kind of like the commentary Bruce has. But I also don't like that Jen is this version of Hulk, because in her own series, they dealt with that. So I still think it's really strange the way the Avengers have been handling her character, and I don't fault this book. I kind of fault Avengers more for that. But it's still weird to see it in this book. And then by the end, we kind of get more development of why Hulk is alive, and them experimenting, kind of figuring out I guess the essence of Hulk, and they like cut him up in jars, and it's just like this kind of perfect horror visual there. So I definitely think they get the horror monster tone correctly in this book. I do think it's a little slow kind of getting answers there, and again, it's mostly an action issue, but it's a haunting action issue, which is why it made it to my top 5. Because I think if you like classic Hulk, there's a lot of elements of that here. So I'm going to give this 4 stars, and also the artwork is just so good in this book. What really brings that haunting feel is the deep details of the artwork. So I'm going to give that 4 stars. Moving on to number 4, which is Crowded, issue 3. It's a little lower than usual. I love Vita and Charlie. They are the best part of this issue. But when we escape them and go to the other assassins, I'm like, no, go back to our main characters. I can meet those assassins later when they interact with our main characters. So that's why it's a little lower, because I think they focus a little bit too much on those other assassins. But I like how the story evolves here, where we find out that Charlie's dog, who is just called Dog at this moment, is chipped, and Charlie's so willing to get rid of the dog, and Vito's like, no, we saved the dog, it's our dog. So I love that. I love their dynamic throughout this whole series. There's just so many funny moments, from the artwork to the dialogue, and it's their relationship that really sells this book more than anything. But then it's just kind of this crazy world that they live in, that there's tourists that end up becoming assassins, because there's not a lot of people assassinate where they're from. So in the big city, they have a lot of assassinations. So those things that really make this an awesome dark comedy. So overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. I really love this creative team, and I really like what the series has been doing. And if you're not reading Crowded, you totally should, because it is a great series. It's still in my top 5. It just didn't make Pick of the Week this time. Alright, moving on to number 3, which is The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 7. Another book that's usually like Pick of the Week, or maybe a little higher, but still in my top 3, which is good. I really loved Boomerang and Pete's relationship here, and how Pete gives him a second chance. And I'm so excited to see how they develop Boomerang's character from here. The part that brings us lower is Kingpin. I don't know how to feel about this slow burn of this main villain, or if I even care about this main villain. So that kind of brought me out of it. But Pete and Fred was so good here, and their dynamic was a lot of fun, and I like that Peter does, again, give him that second chance. I like Ramos's artwork overall. I do like Otley a little bit more on the title, but it is more nostalgic, or at least modern nostalgic, to have Ramos on this title. And I believe Otley probably will be returning next issue. So, yeah, probably. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is probably the highest this series has been in a really long time, and that is Jughead The Hunger, issue 9. Consistent artwork as Joe Eisma takes over artwork here for the whole issue, which I was really happy to see, because I like him as an artist a lot. And again, it's more consistent. But I really like the story here, where we get to see, obviously, there's more haunting figures in Riverdale. We have, like, oh, what's his name? I can't think of his name. Well, we have Cheryl in the group. And that other guy. I'm blanking out on Cheryl's friend. Well, Tony's also part of that group. But anyways, we get to see other Riverdale characters turn into these monster figures. And by the end, you know, Jughead's upset his dog has died. But I really like the interaction between Betty and Archie, where Betty's like, I turned over kind of a new leaf for you. I gave you a second chance because you proved yourself that you're not like these other monsters. So I really like the friendship that's building between Betty and Jughead, especially because Betty was just so against Jughead because she's a werewolf hunter. So now she's helping out Jughead as Jughead's dog has been kidnapped for some reason, his dead dog. And we find out it's actually Milton and a Frankenstein version of Moose that have kidnapped the dog, and now Betty's kidnapped as well. So I really like the progression here and just the friendships that are forming and the new dynamics that are in this horror version of Riverdale, like Moose becoming Frankenstein and Milton being the scientist, which is just a perfect, I think, a perfect twist for the series. So overall, giving this 4 stars, and that is my number 2 pick for the week. Moving on to number 1, this was an easy pick of the week for me, and that is Go-Go Power Rangers issue 13. I just love what Ryan's doing with this book, and also the artwork did change here, but I think the artist really fit Dan Mora's style very well. The only times I would say is like a little anime-ish during the transformations. I think that was the only time I really saw a big difference in the artwork. And my only small nitpick of the issue, since we're talking about nitpicks, is the flashback scene with Matt. I liked it, but I didn't think it really fit the issue because it didn't really connect with the rest of the story. But other than that, I love this issue. I really enjoyed the small character moments, which I think this book does so well with, where we get to see Kimberly dealing with the aftermath of Matt ignoring them. We also have Jason dealing with his dad. I love Trini's scene in this book where, you know, she has a crush on Jason and trying to kind of figure out her feelings, and the mom totally knows, like, you got a crush on somebody. And then I love the scene where she's looking for a yellow sweater and her mom's like, you have everything that's yellow. Like, why do you need this sweater? I thought that was just such a nice poke at a very obvious trope in Power Rangers, and it made such a cool comedic scene there. So those small moments is what I really enjoyed. And then when we get to the end, we get some action here as well, where Trini and Jason have switched costumes, and obviously the rest of the team will too, since we know what's kind of coming up with the series. But what does that mean for our characters? Like, how will this change their personalities? And that's something I'm really excited for. And just seeing the dynamic between Trini and Jason, I think is going to be a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed this issue. I thought it was a great aftermath issue for Shattered Grid, really showing where these characters are at. Again, character moments being the biggest part here, but not forgetting the action and plot progression. So I really enjoyed this issue. Can't wait to see where Go-Go goes. I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars, and like I said, an obvious pick of the week for me this week. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.